A desert planet with twin suns.
Why do I sense we've picked up another pathetic life form?
Use my knowledge. Much to learn, you still have.
Welcome back to Twin Sun Talks, folks. I'm your host, Jonah Liu, and this is my first episode coming to y'all once again from College Station. I've moved back up. We're about to start school. Actually, when this episode is coming out, it's going to be my first day of school. And yeah, so it's a new space. Very excited to be recording here. And yeah, if y'all hear any background noises, I'm living with 3 other guys, so I can't really control that, but it's all good. I have a shorter episode today because I've been dealing a lot with moving in and kind of getting settled and also prepping for the start of school, so I didn't have too much time to make a super in-depth episode, but something that I know a lot of people want to learn more about are Holocrons, and I know that they haven't made too many appearances in the movies, but they have made a lot of appearances in shows, and they're super interesting, and I'm just going to give y'all a small breakdown over kind of what they're all about and what you need to know about them. So without further ado, let's go into ARC Trooper training.
Gentlemen, who wants to be an ARC Trooper? I do, sir!
Alrighty, so I think that an appropriate way to start this podcast, as I do normally with these sorts of kind of back-to-basic type formats, is to ask the question, what is a holocron? And so basically what holocrons are information storage devices utilized by Sith and Jedi. For Jedi, they were primarily cubes. They were more of a blue tint, and they were held in the Jedi Temple archives on Coruscant pre-Empire. They obviously were spread a bit throughout the galaxy and a couple other temples, but primarily the primary library or storage unit that housed most of them was on Coruscant in the Jedi Temple. And for Sith, they were more pyramidal, and I think that the design for the Sith ones are pretty dope. They're more red, as you might have guessed, and I don't know too much about whether or not there was like a specific library that they were stored in, like whenever the Sith Empire was a thing. But I do know that we find one in an abandoned Sith temple on Malachor in Rebels, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But primarily what holocrons are meant to do is house and store knowledge, and they're able to dispense information about various teachings or historical documentations as holograms. And the tricky thing about these are that only Force sensitives are able to access the information within them, because not only just Force sensitives, but Force sensitives who are, according to Luke Skywalker's own words in what's the name of this book? It's The Secrets of the Jedi. In Luke Skywalker's words, sorry, let me flip open to it. It takes a Jedi Master in perfect alignment with the Force to unlock a holocron. So not even like Padawans are able to necessarily do it, so if you were trying to kind of coerce a Padawan into doing it, they would not be successful. It takes a Master, or at very least a Knight, to unlock a Jedi holocron, and it takes tapping into the dark side of the Force to unlock a Sith holocron. And so that's very basic. There are a lot of different iterations of holocrons that we see throughout Legends. There aren't too many instances of them being utilized in canon, so I'm not going to go too in-depth about the various instances that they're seen in Legends, because there are so many, and they're very prevalent. And if y'all want me to go a bit more in depth, just let me know. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to stick to the canon. But if we're looking at where we see holocrons used most prominently, I would say that there are 4 specific moments. And so the first one is the Holocron Heist, which is the first time we learn about holocrons in canon at all. And so this is the story arc in Clone Wars Season 2. It's the first few episodes, I think it might be the first 3, where Cad Bane is hired by Darth Sidious to break into the Jedi Temple, steal a holocron, and then combine it with the Kyber memory crystal, which is kept by Jedi Master Bola Rapal, the Rodian, and to have a Jedi, or to figure out how to combine the two in order to figure out where Force-sensitive children are in the galaxy, and then essentially go and kidnap them for the purposes of Darth Sidious. And so, a couple things with this. So, the Kyber memory crystal, which has a little less to do with holocrons, but it required a holocron in order to be read. The Holocron memory crystal was kept by Jedi Master Bola Rapal, who was a Rodian Jedi, and it essentially was a codex that housed a list of all of the known Force-sensitive children in the galaxy, essentially that were in line to be picked up and taken to the Jedi Temple. And so whenever Cad Bane essentially sacked wherever Master Rapal was stationed, he also captured him and brought him on board his ship, and he tortured him to death, essentially trying to force him to unlock the holocron, which Bola Rapal denied to do, and was eventually murdered at the hands of Cad Bane and his torture droids, which is a really upsetting scene, actually. I'd say it's one of the first instances where it's like actually extremely dark in the Clone Wars. It was extremely, extremely upsetting, I remember as a kid. But ultimately, this is a spoiler for this story arc of the Clone Wars, so if you haven't watched it yet, avert your ears. But he's able to coerce Anakin Skywalker to do this, to unlock the holocron, and so he can combine it with the memory crystal whenever he is threatening to kill Ahsoka if Skywalker doesn't do that. So, at the end of the day, the story arc kind of goes where Cad Bane is able to kidnap 2 or 3 of the children and bring them to Mustafar in order for Sidious to essentially brainwash them. And I think that what's cool about this is a sidetrack, but this kind of is the precursor to the Inquisitor program that we see in Star Wars Rebels. But anyways, that's very much a sidetrack off of what we've been talking about so far. So the next 2 are both in Star Wars Rebels. And so the first one is Obi-Wan's message, which we see Kanan playing in the very first episode, or first couple of episodes of the Rebels, which is essentially like a warning after Order 66 telling all surviving Jedi to not return to Coruscant and essentially to lay low and just survive. And that one day a new hope will arise. This is something that I'm just remembering, but Ahsoka is seen watching old recordings of Anakin Skywalker teaching different lightsaber forms on a holocron as well in Rebels. And Anakin's character design is absolutely terrible, but that's neither here nor there. And a pretty big story arc in Rebels was whenever it was Ahsoka and Kanan and Ezra go to Malachor, and they find an abandoned Sith temple, which was an old battleground, which they find like old crossguard lightsabers. They also encounter Darth Maul, and they encounter 2 Inquisitors. And ultimately, this is where Maul kind of takes Ezra under his wing, and he ultimately kind of forces him to get a Sith holocron for him. And ultimately, the Sith holocron is combined with the Jedi holocron in order to give them both knowledge of essentially knowledge of how to best defeat, in Ezra's case, how to defeat the Sith, and in in Maul's case, how to find Obi-Wan, which at this point is his primary goal, is to seek out Obi-Wan Kenobi. And they both find essentially the same thing. The key to defeating the Sith and the key to finding Obi-Wan Kenobi are one and the same. And that sparks a whole other side quest, which I won't go into, but that's another time that we see them. And the last one that we see, and this is the only time that we've seen a holocron in the movies, was in Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. It's one of the first things that happens is Kylo Ren is actually on Mustafar. That red planet with the trees is actually Mustafar. which I think is super, super interesting because we see it's 50 years after we see it last, which was in Revenge of the Sith, whenever we see Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting on it. But it actually has trees and vegetation. There's life coming back because the reason that it was a lava planet in the first place was because the planet had been overmined and the crust had become unstable. And so for that reason, it became kind of an ashy, barren, volcanic desert. But after the 50-year period, I think there's something about the mining of the planet had stopped, and that allowed for the original forest to start to grow back. But Kylo Ren is fighting off assailants within the ruins of Vader's castle, and he finds a Wayfinder holocron, which is what leads him to the planet Exegol. So that's the only time that we see there are two Wayfinders to the planet Exegol, one in Vader's castle and one in the ruins of the second Death Star, which Rey finds, and then Kylo Ren subsequently destroys. But that is the only time that we see holocrons utilized in the existing canon, and that was less of like a holder. We didn't see it actually dispense the information as a hologram. We just saw them. We saw it used essentially to plot a course through wild space, the unknown regions, in order to reach the planet Exegol. And so, yeah, that's about all that I have about like the basics of holocrons and essentially where we see them in the existing media that we have. At least that's canon. If y'all want me to go into a little more detail about these, like maybe the ones that we see in Legends or any of the other ones, then please just let me know. And yeah, that's all that I have on that, but this would not be a proper episode if I didn't leave you with a little bit more. So what I got for y'all today is that pod racers, when they're in their vehicles, are able to travel at speeds surpassing 500 miles per hour, which is absolutely insane. It's more impressive if you think about it in kilometers per hour, which is 800. But 500 miles per hour, which is absolutely insane. But yeah, now this is pod racing. Anyways, that's all that I have for y'all today. Just a reminder that if you're still listening either through the website or on YouTube, you're obviously free to keep listening on those, but we are available on Spotify or Apple Podcasts now. So if those are more convenient for you, I highly suggest that you go over to those platforms and subscribe to us and download our episodes and listen whenever they're coming out. Please tell your friends about this podcast if you think that they'd enjoy it. I know that this is a very niche thing to want to hear someone just talk about Star Wars once a week, but I'd really appreciate any support that y'all are able to give. And if you have any questions or just want to interact with me, the way to contact me would be through my email, which is twinsontalks@gmail.com. We also have our DMs are always open on Instagram at twinsontalks, or you can feel free to comment on YouTube. But that's all that I have for today. Coming to you live from College Station once again. We started here, now we're back. Excited to be back. Excited to keep talking to y'all. And I will see y'all in the next episode. Bye, friends. Oh, wait, no, hang on. You've taken your first steps into a larger world. May the Force be with you. And I will see y'all in the next episode. Bye, friends. There we go.